My brother lifted the glass of red wine, smiled at me across the Christmas table, and said, "Cheers." He had no idea I had watched my father pour something into it 30 minutes earlier. He had no idea I had a recording of every second, and he definitely did not know that before I ever sat down to dinner, I had already made the hardest decision of my life. I did not scream. I did not slap the glass out of his hand. I just watched him lift it. You are probably wondering why I did not walk away years earlier, why I kept showing up, why I kept writing checks, making calls, cleaning up disasters my father created and my mother refused to name. The answer is not complicated. It just took me a very long time to see it clearly. Every family built on exploitation has a load-bearing wall. One person holding everything up so everyone else can pretend the structure is standing on its own. I was that wall. My brother Tyler was the chandelier. Decorative, admired, expensive to maintain, and completely useless if the power went out. My father started gambling seriously when I was 12. Not scratch tickets, not fantasy football. The kind of gambling that requires a second phone and a contact saved under a fake name. By the time I was in college, I understood that the tuition my parents said they had set aside for me had vanished into a losing streak on futures trading. I paid my own way through school. I told myself it was fine. I told myself they were doing their best. But Tyler got a car for his 18th birthday. I got a card with $20 in it and a reminder that I was responsible, and responsible people did not need as much help. So I became an accountant. Numbers made sense to me in a way my family never did. I was good at it. Within 4 years, I was making more than both of my parents combined. And because I was good at it, because I was the responsible one, and because no one else was going to do it, I started quietly covering the gaps. Property tax when my father had a bad month. My mother's car repair. The second mortgage payment that was somehow always a week late. I never asked to be paid back. I told myself that was love. But really, that was a subsidy. And my family had built their entire lifestyle on the assumption that the subsidy would never stop. The shift came 11 months ago. I was sitting at my desk on a Tuesday afternoon when my phone rang. It was an attorney I did not recognize, calling about my grandfather's estate. My grandfather, on my father's side, had died 4 years earlier. I thought everything had already been settled. I was wrong about that too. There was a trust. My grandfather, who had spent his whole life watching my father's habits up close, had written a very specific clause into it. The trust held approximately $800,000 in assets. Under the terms he had set, if I was alive and over the age of 30 at the time of distribution, the full amount transferred directly to me. But if I died before turning 30, the assets reverted to my parents. I had turned 29 that March. The attorney told me the distribution date was 14 months away. He was calling because, under the trust terms, I had to be notified directly once I was within 18 months of eligibility. I thanked him. I hung up. Then I sat at my desk for a very long time, staring at the wall. I did not tell my parents that day. I did not tell Tyler. I went home, made dinner, and tried to convince myself I was imagining things. Tried to tell myself I was becoming paranoid. But numbers are my native language, and the numbers were telling a story I did not want to read. My father owed money, serious money, not the kind you settle with a payment plan and a few uncomfortable calls. 6 months earlier, I had found the statements by accident. A folder left open on the kitchen counter during one of my visits home. Margin calls. Leverage positions that had collapsed. Debts layered on top of debts. The total was somewhere north of $400,000. He had been hiding it, restructuring it, borrowing against borrowed money for almost 2 years. $412,000 of debt. $800,000 in trust assets. One daughter standing between him and the payout. One daughter who was 29 years old. I want to be honest about what I did next, because it matters. I did not go to the police. I did not confront him. I did not hire a lawyer, or call a family meeting, or do any of the things a decent person is supposed to do when she suspects something monstrous. I waited. I watched. I started keeping records. Then, in October, my father suggested a Christmas cabin trip. He framed it as reconciliation. He said he had been thinking about family, about how we did not spend enough time together, about how he wanted to make things right before the new year. My mother smiled the way she always smiled when my father made declarations. Wide, performed, hollow. Tyler loved the idea immediately, because Tyler had always loved anything paid for by someone else. I said yes. But really, I had already begun making a different kind of preparation. 3 weeks before the trip, I drove 40 minutes out of my way to a small electronics shop and bought a smoke detector. Not because I needed a smoke detector, because this one had a wide-angle camera hidden inside it. drawing power through a USB port disguised as the battery housing. I had read enough about those devices to know exactly how to use it. 2 days before everyone arrived, I went up to the cabin early and mounted it in the kitchen. I told my family I wanted to get the place ready. My mother called that sweet of me. Sweet. Sweet girls do not read the fine print. Sweet girls do not keep backup drives. Sweet girls trust their families. I am not sweet. Christmas Eve arrived gray and cold, which felt fitting. My father was charming at dinner. He told old stories, laughed loudly, refilled glasses without being asked. But really, I was watching him the way you watch a storm front on a weather map, tracking pressure, measuring distance, calculating when it would hit. At 7:30, I excused myself to use the bathroom. I sat on the closed toilet lid, pulled out my phone, and opened the app connected to the kitchen camera. My father had gone in 2 minutes earlier, saying he was getting more ice. There was no shortage of ice. The video was clear. He moved quickly, and that told me something important. He had rehearsed this. He went to his coat hanging by the back door. He reached into the inner pocket and pulled out a small folded paper envelope, the kind pharmacists use for loose samples. He opened it over my wine glass, the one I had left on the counter when I stepped away to refresh my lip balm. The powder was fine and white. It disappeared instantly into the dark red wine. Then he folded the envelope, slipped it back into his pocket, grabbed the ice bucket from the freezer, and walked into the dining room, looking like a man who had done something completely ordinary. I sat there for a full minute. My hands were not shaking. What I noticed, more than anything, was that the part of my brain that processes danger had gone very quiet and very clear. The same way it does when a client calls with a financial emergency. Panic is expensive, clarity is free, and in that moment, I understood exactly what I had. I had the video. The video was already backed up to cloud storage through my phone, but I also understood what I did not have yet. I did not have the attempt. I did not have the act completed far enough to make denial impossible. A defense attorney could take that video in 100 directions. My father would say it was medication. He would say it was a supplement. He would say he had been preparing his own drink, and the camera angle made it look different. I needed more than preparation. I needed him to hand it to me. So I stood up, walked back to the table, and sat down in front of the glass he thought I would drink. And that is where the real Christmas dinner began. The wine glass was exactly where I had left it. I sat down, wrapped my hand around the stem, and let myself perform the role I had been rehearsing for 3 weeks without ever fully admitting it to myself. I looked tired, a little distracted, like a woman winding down from a long year, grateful to be with family, not paying enough attention to what was in her glass. My father watched me the way he had been watching me all evening, patiently, but now I understood that it was not warmth, it was timing. Across the table, Tyler was in the middle of some story about a road trip he had taken last summer. He had always been good at stories. He inherited our father's talent for performance, but none of his survival instincts. Tyler genuinely believed this was a nice Christmas trip. He was the only person at that table who did not understand what kind of night it really was. I reached for the glass. My father leaned forward almost imperceptibly. I lifted it, swirled it, studied the color, then set it back down again without drinking. "This smells different," I said, not accusing, just curious, mildly puzzled, like I was trying to place a note in the wine. My mother's hand tightened around her fork. "Different how?" she asked. Her voice was careful, too careful. "Richer, I think." I looked at my father. "Did you open something else? This isn't the Malbec we started with, is it?" He smiled. The smile did not reach his eyes. "I may have opened the reserve bottle. It's Christmas." "The reserve bottle?" I repeated, letting admiration color my voice. "The one you've been saving since my graduation?" "You deserve it," he said warmly. But beneath the warmth, there was arithmetic. Always arithmetic. Tyler looked up from his plate. My brother had one weakness that had never changed since we were children. He could tolerate being broke. He could tolerate being wrong. But he could never tolerate someone else getting the better version of anything. "Is there more of it?" he asked. "It's Elena's bottle," my father said, using my mother's name in that clipped, dismissive way he always used when he wanted to end a conversation. "It's for her." That was, of course, exactly the wrong thing to say to Tyler. "There's a full glass just sitting there," Tyler said. "She hasn't even touched it." "I was letting it breathe," I said. "It's been breathing for 20 minutes. Then Tyler did what Tyler had done his entire life. He reached across the table with the easy entitlement of someone who had always been given things without asking twice. "You're barely drinking tonight anyway. Let me just—" "Tyler." My mother's voice cracked across the table like a whip. He froze. That was wrong immediately. My mother did not snap. My mother managed. She softened. She redirected. She patched over tension before it broke the surface. She did not snap. The sharpness landed badly, and Tyler felt it. "It's literally one glass of wine," he said slowly. "It's your sister's," my mother said, but her voice had dropped now. "Controlled. Too controlled. She can pour you your own from the other bottle if she wants." Tyler looked at me, then at the glass, and I watched the exact thing I had been counting on happen in real time. His face shifted from casual interest into something more stubborn. The harder my mother pushed, the deeper he dug in. She had raised him to expect yes. She had never taught him how to hear no. "You're acting strange," Tyler said to her. "It's wine. We're family. What is the big deal?" My father said nothing. I glanced at him. He was watching Tyler, the same way he had been watching me all evening. And in that instant, I saw the calculation change. Same math, new variables. He needed the money. The money required the clause. The clause required my death. And Tyler was now the one reaching for the glass. I watched my father decide. He picked up his own glass and raised it slightly. "Let him have it," he said. Casual, paternal, generous. "We'll open another bottle for you, sweetheart. It's Christmas." My mother made a sound then. Not a word, a sound. Small, broken, involuntary. And when she looked at my father, I saw something I had never seen on her face in all 31 years of their marriage. She was looking at a stranger. "Raymond," she said quietly. He did not look at her. His eyes stayed on Tyler, who had already taken hold of the glass with the confidence of someone who thought he had just won a small, harmless argument. "Raymond." Her voice changed the second time. There was panic under it now. My father reached across the table and put his hand over hers. Not gently. He pressed down, hard, a warning disguised as affection, a holiday gesture with a blade hidden inside it. Then he smiled at Tyler. "Enjoy it." Tyler lifted the glass toward me in a mock toast. "Cheers, sis." I have gone over that moment more times than I can count. I have tried to invent some clean version of it. A noble version, a simple version. There was not one. If I knocked the glass away, I lost everything. No committed attempt. No handoff. No undeniable act. Just a suspicious family scene that two practiced liars would bury before the night was over. If I did nothing, Tyler drank. So I did the only thing I could do that was neither. "Wait," I said. Tyler paused with the rim just short of his lips. "I actually want it." I reached across and took the glass from his hand. Not urgently, not dramatically, just with the easy confidence of an older sister reclaiming what was hers. "Dad opened it for me," I said. "I'll share the other bottle with you." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Dramatic. Always." I set the glass down in front of me. My father's jaw tightened. My mother exhaled so softly I almost missed it. And then I did the thing I had driven all the way up that mountain to do. I picked up the glass and brought it toward my lips. I let everyone at that table believe I was going to drink it. My father leaned forward. I lowered the glass again, reached into my cardigan pocket, and placed my phone flat on the table with the screen facing up. "Before I drink this," I said, "I want to show you something." The video started from the beginning of the kitchen clip. 41 seconds, my father going to his coat, the folded paper envelope, the fine white powder slipping into the red wine, the angle wide enough to capture his face clearly, close enough to make denial ridiculous. No one spoke. The fire crackled in the corner. Wind pushed against the cabin walls. My father moved first. He lunged for the phone, and I slid it back before his fingers touched it. "It's already uploaded," I said. "Cloud storage. Time-stamped 40 minutes ago. You can throw this phone into the fire if you want. It won't change anything." My mother had both hands flat on the table now. She was staring at the wine glass like it had become something alive. "That's not," my father began. "Don't." My voice came out quieter than I expected, quieter than I felt. I have lived in this family my entire life. I know exactly what it sounds like when you start building a lie. "Don't." Tyler turned and looked at my father with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Tyler, who lived by charm and ease and surface, looked like a man who had just stepped onto ice and heard it crack underneath him. "What is in the glass?" he asked. My father said nothing. Tyler asked again, and this time his voice was flat, strange on him, dangerous. "What is in the glass?" "I don't know what she's implying," my father said. "It was a supplement for her anxiety. She's been stressed." "You don't have supplements," I said. "You have a margin debt of $412,000. You have a brokerage account that was liquidated in September. You have a trust distribution arriving in 14 months that pays out $800,000 to you if I am not alive to receive it." I kept my voice level. "You have a motive. You have the video. And you have my wine glass sitting right here in front of me." This silence was different, heavier. It was the kind of silence that falls when something invisible suddenly becomes impossible not to see. Tyler stood up. He walked around the table to my place, picked up the wine glass, carried it into the kitchen, and poured it down the drain. Then he ran the water for a long time. When he came back, his face was gray. "How long have you known?" he asked me. "Since October. The attorney who handles Grandpa's trust called me about the distribution. I did the math after that." Tyler turned and looked at my father. And my father was doing something I had never seen him do in 30 years. He was looking at his hands. He was not performing. He was not framing. He was not improvising his way out. He was just a man at a Christmas table who had finally been caught in a way words could not fix. And the performance had run out of material. My mother started crying very quietly. Not the theatrical crying she used during arguments or disappointments. Not the kind meant to redirect a room. This was something else. Smaller, uglier, more honest. "I told him not to," she said, though she did not seem to be speaking to any one person. "I told him we would find another way." "There is no other way," my father said. And for the first time that entire evening, his voice was just a voice. No polish, no performance, no carefully chosen shape, just tired, cornered, stripped down to the raw thing underneath. "You have no idea what these people will do. They'll do it to you," Tyler said, "not to her. You don't get to—" "That is not how this works," my father cut in. "She was going to leave anyway. She was going to take her money and disappear, and they were going to come for all of us. I was handling it. You were handling it." Tyler repeated the words like he was studying them from a distance, trying to understand what kind of human being could say them and still believe they made sense. I had prepared for the confrontation. I had rehearsed lines in my head. I had imagined speeches, revelations, moments of clarity. But sitting there, watching my father reduce 29 years of my life to a logistical problem he had been trying to solve, I found I did not have a speech anymore. I had already said the important part. The video had said the rest. I reached into my bag beside my chair and pulled out a small USB drive. I set it on the table. "This has the full recording from the kitchen camera," I said. "The original file and 2 backup copies. I called the county sheriff's office from the bathroom at 7:45. They're already on the mountain road. Probably another 20 minutes with this weather." Then I looked at my father. "I want you to understand something before they get here. I am not doing this because I hate you. I'm doing this because you made a choice tonight that required me to make one." My mother looked up. "Elena, don't—" "Tyler," he said to her gently but firmly. By then he had moved to stand near me, slightly behind my chair. And I did not realize until that moment how much that mattered to me. People skip over what comes after a moment like that. They rush to the arrest. They edit the story into something sharp and cinematic. Clean, final. But the real thing is never clean. The real thing is a sheriff's deputy in a rain jacket standing in the doorway of a cabin on Christmas Eve, looking at a family around a dinner table and trying to understand what kind of wreckage he has just stepped into. It is my mother refusing. E72. Let go of the USB drive once she understands what it means, and Tyler having to pry it from her hands. It is my father. At the exact moment the deputy reaches for his arm, turning to look at me with an expression I still cannot fully name. It might have been grief. It might have been anger. It might have been both at once. It is Tyler and me sitting on the porch steps in the cold at 11 o'clock that night, not speaking for a long time, watching the patrol car lights disappear down the mountain road. Finally he said, "I had no idea." I believed him. "I didn't know about any of it," he said. "The debt, the trust, any of it. I know." Tyler's obliviousness had always been real. He had not been cruel in the same way our parents were cruel. He had simply been protected from reality by the same people who used mine as a training ground. After a long silence, he asked, "Why didn't you tell me earlier, when you figured it out?" I looked out into the dark and thought about how to answer honestly. "Because I needed to be certain before I broke your family." He was quiet for a long time after that. Then he said, "It was already broken. We just didn't have the receipts. There are things that happened after that night which can be told quickly, and there are things that need their full weight. I will try to give both what they deserve." My father was charged with attempted poisoning and criminal administration of a controlled substance. Later, the prosecutor added conspiracy charges after investigators examined the financial records and recovered a text thread from my father's second phone with a contact listed only as B. Whatever arrangement he had made with his creditors, it had involved my death clearly enough to qualify as conspiracy. His attorney fought hard. It did not matter. The video was 41 seconds of clarity, and no one could argue that kind of clarity back into doubt. My mother cooperated. She told investigators she had known something was being planned, but had not understood specifically what until that moment at the table. Whether that is the complete truth, I honestly do not know. I have thought about it more times than I can count. I think she is a woman who learned 30 years ago that not asking questions was a way to protect herself. And over time, that habit hardened into something so permanent she could no longer recognize it as complicity. The prosecutor called it willful blindness. I do not have a better phrase for it. She was not charged. 3 weeks after the arrest, she came to see me. We sat in my kitchen. She drank coffee. For almost an hour, she did not say the thing she had come to say. And when she finally said it, it was not exactly an apology. It was more like an admission. She acknowledged that she had known what I was in that family, what role I had filled, the one who absorbed the weight, the one who paid, the one who kept everything from collapsing. And she admitted she had allowed it because it was convenient. She said she was sorry for that. She sounded like she meant it. I told her I appreciated her saying it. I also told her I needed time. That is still where we are. Tyler and I talk now more than we ever did when we were growing up under the same roof. That is the strange aftermath of something like this. Sometimes the fracture creates the first real opening. All those years of surface-level family had sealed everything shut. Then one night, the whole structure split open. Last month, Tyler asked me to explain how the trust fund actually worked. That meant explaining the financial history of our parents' marriage, which meant a very long phone call and a bottle of wine no one had tampered with. He was quiet through most of it. At the end, he said, "I always thought you were fine." I seemed fine, I told him. That's what useful people are trained to look like. As for the trust, my grandfather had built something far more ironclad than my father ever understood. The clause requiring me to survive until 30 was only one of 3 protections. The second required that I be living independently at the time of distribution. The third said that any legal finding of criminal intent against a beneficiary would forfeit their interest entirely. 6 weeks after the arrest, the estate attorney called me again.